people that are leading the charge with all this. Let's get into some of these. I'm going to make sure we're connected first. We'll get into some of these stories here. Welcome, everybody. Glad you guys could all make it this morning. All right. Are we connected? Are you guys here? All right. Hopefully. One time I hit the go stream button and I thought I hit it, but I didn't. And so you guys could not hear me. And I did a whole show. This is why I start to do these. That's why just connected. You guys said, oh, wow. Really? Something weird's going on with YouTube. When I hit this start the stream button, it takes a minute. So are you guys telling me that I just came on right now? Let me know. Then we'll go ahead and start over again. This is the second time this has happened. Wow, unreal. Okay, we'll start over. So we've been doing lots of work on these twins, right? And you guys that have followed the channel know this. We've been doing all this work on twins. And what I thought was interesting is when I was looking at this photo of Prince Harry and Prince Philip. And what they're saying now is they're now comparing the two and saying that they look so much alike, right? And they actually do. But why now? Why are they looking at this now? Now, here's the weird thing about all this. Prince Philip died on the 9th day of April at 99 years old on the 99th day of the year. So we have a 9, a 99, and a 99. Now, during the early years of this channel, we focused on the days of the year of death and the birth of celebrities. And we noticed these synchronicities very often. It was a mainstay of the channel. It was one of the things that we talked about often. But we kind of went away from that because there were other things that we delved into. But just last month, I was telling you about a friend's father who was a mathematician for General Dynamic. And he was born on 12/3/33, and he died on 3/2/21. Now, I'm going to type that out on the screen here after I confirm that we're connected this time. That is so weird. I hit the stream button, and it was like it delayed it when I clicked away, but oh well. Here we are. So let's go in here, and I'm gonna punch in the date of my friend's father's passing. And this is crazy. Let's put this here. So 12/3/33, right? Isn't that weird? And 3/2/21. Now, many of you will also notice these strange synchronicities between you and your family and friends or loved ones. Exes, dates of, your divorce, dates of your engagement. It's weird. But this guy, his father was a mathematician, and look at the dates. 1/2/3, 3/2/1. So it's like a counting up and then a counting down. Now, what does all this mean? Well, I believe these are divine manifestations of this reality, and they can either be bad or they can be good. Now, only God knows when you're going to be born and when you're going to be taken off this world, right? So there's something to this. Now, the Bible talks about the things that reveal the majesty of God. And to this point, not a lot of people can point to anything specific other than what we see in the heavens and in creation as to the divine majesty of God. In fact, the atheists try to use the chaos in our reality to try to discredit God. They talk about, oh, well, why would God let this happen or that happen? But here's an example that you can show people that, look, wow, you can look at any person, even yourself or your family or friends, and if you sit down and write it all out, you can find these strange synchronicities about the calendar date of the year, the date people die, the age they die, and all this. And in some weird way, it always connects and links back into the people in their life. Now, I myself was born on the 88th day of the year. on March 29th, and I was born in the Hebrew calendar year 5733, which was 1973. So that's kind of weird, right? A lot of double digits in that as well. And so based on our research, the only thing that I can chalk this up to is the order of the matrix. Controlled when we're born and when we die by the Most High God himself. So I was looking at this, and I also noticed that the cover says match. And that's, of course, is another twin clue. This is a Paris magazine. Been around for a while. The cover is actually dated February 16th, 1957. So how old was Philip in this picture? He was 36. And that just so happens to be the age that Harry is right now. 36. 3 sixes. There's another 666, which aligns with Philip's death at 99 years old. Now, this goes deeper because, like I said, this magazine cover was from 1957. And the number 57 has only two factors, or two numbers that you can multiply to get to the number 57. And those numbers are 3 and 19. So 19 times 3 is 57. Now, what makes that weird is that 57 is a very important number, because we are in the midst of the CV-19 that happened 19 years after Blind 11, which is another 19. And each of the two buildings that fell had 19 tridents along their facade. Do you see what's happening here? There's something that is unexplained. There's something supernatural happening here. And it isn't just cherry picking. You can find this everywhere. Now, here is the Paris Match magazine. And as you can see here, it launched on another 19, which is November 9th, 119, 19 backwards. So this magazine's been around for a while. And so that's what's going on here. Now, what else do we have here? Let's flip through these. Now, there's something going on with these twins, because even the year 2020 is a twin number. Now, we've been talking about this leading up to 2020, this twin surge. We anticipated this and actually talked about it before it happened. And there has, in fact, been a twin surge. And this twin surge was conceived out of the year 2020, about the middle of the year is when all this started to happen. And, of course, they're trying to write this off as something to do with in vitro fertilization and also women having children at an older age, which is supposed to yield higher sets of twins. I don't know if I believe that, but that's what they're telling us. So there's something about 2020. This is all about the twins. So I wanted to cover Prince Philip and Prince Harry. Talk to you guys about this because I feel like this is pretty important. Many of you had asked me to cover this, and so that's why we're covering it, this twinning aspect. So let's get into the rest of today's show, because I want to talk to you guys about something else that doubled in 2020, and that was the rates of homeschooling doubled in 2020. Now, this is a good thing. But before we get into these articles, I want to talk to you guys about what you think is driving this. And I believe that it's because certain states are requiring children to be vaccinated before coming to school. California, for instance. So you can imagine that would be a huge catalyst for parents to start homeschooling. Understanding that, wow, this is now a requirement. And so all those parents who want to opt out of that, they have two choices, either move out of the state or homeschool. Now, the weird thing is we're going to get into who's actually driving these numbers, and it's kind of a surprising group that I wasn't expecting. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But I can imagine, too, that some of these parents understanding that, hey, if they're requiring vaccines in general, that pretty soon they're probably going to be requiring a CV-19 vaccine. And so there's another reason for parents to pull children out of schools. And so I can imagine there's a lot of parents out there that foresaw this happening and opted to pull their children out of school now rather than waiting. Now, who knows what's going to happen with the laws and what they're going to require in terms of homeschooling. Right now, you can homeschool pretty easily, but I can imagine as they begin to lose enrollment in the public schools that they are going to start clamping down with the public school lobby against homeschooling. This is probably what's coming next. But here's what upsets me about what public schools are doing right now. And that is they are making a concerted effort to try and corner the market on homeschooling with distance learning. And why is this happening? Well, they already knew that homeschooling rates were going up and they were losing enrollment in public schools. Even before the Spamdemic, the trends were starting to move in the direction of more and more people homeschooling. Well, as soon as the Spamdemic hit, they kept children home for a while, but then they began to come up with these, what already seemed to be prepackaged distance learning plans. Who came up with this? How did they come up with it so fast? And so what happens is as more and more children begin to distance learn because of the Spamdemic, what did that do to the homeschool market? Well, it took a big chunk out of it because a lot of parents just opt to, since they're already paying tax dollars anyway, they should let their kids distance learn in the public school. They probably figured, hey, that's better than nothing. Now, I can imagine, too, another catalyst as to why people are homeschooling is because of all the violence going on and the inability of school staff to protect children because they just don't do a good job of it, even when it comes to bullying and stuff like that. They almost see it as a rite of passage. They do not take bullying seriously in schools at all. They don't look for it. They don't monitor the children close enough to see and listen to what's going on between the children. If they hear about something or some bullying, they rarely do anything about it. They rarely pull the children in to talk to them and say this is unacceptable. So there are threats being made. There's humiliation rituals happening right under your nose, and rarely anything's done about it because honestly, most teachers just don't care. And a lot actually believe that this is just part of the rite of passage to go through school. They'll have signs up to talk about bullying, but at the end of the day, nothing ever really gets done about it. I would tend to take bullying very seriously because bullying is the type of thing that shapes children for the rest of their life. And all it takes is one experience, one serious experience of true bullying and humiliation to cause some children to go over the edge and change the course of the rest of their life. It affects their confidence. It's almost like an amputation of their confidence that they never really get back. And you have to try to develop that self-confidence over the rest of the course of your life. And so, what else is going on here? Well, during homeschooling, or distance learning, I should say, the public schools still get their enrollment numbers and their tax money. But here's the thing. Even though their enrollment numbers are continuously going down as more people homeschool, nobody gets a property tax rebate. You don't get money back for the property taxes that go to education, even though their enrollment numbers are falling. And why is that? Why aren't property taxes going down in areas where homeschooling rates have doubled? And why aren't you getting a rebate when you homeschool your child to help cover the costs of homeschooling, to help cover the costs of maybe childcare while you're homeschooling if you're not able to be there with your child? None of this makes any sense, and it's not supposed to because the government never gives anything back. That's why you don't give them anything, because you'll never get it back. But the good news is that more and more people are pulling their children out of the B system. Let's read this first article here. Let me make sure we're connected first. We'll get back into this first article. Thanks everybody for showing up. Sorry for the hiccup. I would have been on here 15 minutes earlier, and I realized we weren't live yet. In a year when so much about schooling has changed, add this to the list: a significant increase in the number of households where students are homeschooled. That's according to the data from the U.S. Census Bureau in an online survey. When the survey began, 5.4% of U.S. households with school-age children reported homeschooling. By the fall, that number had spiked to 11% with school-age children reported homeschooling in September through October. This is twice the number of households that were homeschooling. Homeschooling rates increase most dramatically. Now, this is the surprise group here. I wasn't expecting this. Among respondents who identified as Black. The proportion of Black homeschoolers increased fivefold, from 3.3% in late spring to 16% in the fall. I had no idea 16% of children who are Black were getting homeschooled. What could that be about? I don't really know, but that's really significant. And there was significant variation among states: Alaska, Florida, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Montana, Nevada, New York, Oklahoma, Vermont, and West Virginia all saw at least a 9% increase in household homeschooling. Many other states, meanwhile, did not show significant change. So this looks like, let's see here, this is like the Northeast, kind of spread out. The North, the West, these would be maybe lower population states, I would say. Mississippi's the South, of course. Maybe these are states with lower populations, I can imagine. So that's what it sounds like is going on here. Possible reasons for that variation, the Bureau noted, include local rates of CV infections and local decisions about how school is conducted. We'll look at the data. Before we go further, a few words about the data. Blah, blah, blah. So this is interesting. Now, I thought this was important, this story I wanted to cover with you guys, because I had no idea that 80% of the teachers and school staff were getting VC'd. So they have been really pushing the teachers to get this done. And this is when you get into these institutions, this is how dangerous this is, because people are pressured into the agenda. And, you know, when it comes to other things, maybe that might not be such a big deal. But when they pressure people to inject something in their body, that is kind of a big deal. Obviously, these teachers have been pressured. Maybe they were told they would lose their jobs if they didn't. I don't know. But this is really weird. How is it that 80% of teachers, this is a much higher rate even than the nurses and, you know, essential personnel in other areas are getting? So let's read this article because this is interesting. Students are heading back to class amidst the you-know-what. And to keep you posted on what's unfolded throughout the U.S. schools, K through 12, as well as colleges. Okay, blah, blah, blah. The majority of teachers and staff have received one shot of the VC. 80% of the teachers and school employees in the U.S. have received at least one. Our push to ensure that teachers, school staff, and child care workers are VC'd during March has paid off. So it was like March Madness, right? Paved the way for safer in-person learning. How is this safer in-person learning when the president himself said that children have nothing to worry about? They're not in a group that really is going to catch this. I don't understand this. It makes no sense to me. I don't even know why children were forced to stay home, other than what we opened the show with, and that is that they wanted to get a corner on the market for homeschooling. That's the only reason why I can think of as to why they made children stay home. They're calling them carriers, but they don't come down with symptoms from it. Makes no sense to me. They should have been allowed to go to school. And if anything, if they believe this is all real, make the teachers wear a mask. Let the children be children. So I don't understand all this. Doesn't make any sense. So it says, the C to the D to the C will build on the success of this program and work with our partners to continue expanding our efforts. So, March, I guess, Bo Jiden told teachers from K through 12 to get VC'd. So there was a directive. Now, this is the problem with being a government worker. You fall under you got to listen to what the government tells you. I can imagine that even state workers in different states are probably being pressured to take this as well. For many, many years, my mother wanted me to work for the state of California because, she got to work for the state and retire there. And, she never got laid off through the 25 years she worked there. And it sounded great, but I'm glad I didn't, because here's the thing. Stuff like this you could be coerced into this. You're almost forced to do it. And these are the first people they're going to go after. So, crazy. Now, tomorrow, I'll be here with you guys in the chat for the whole entirety of the premiere. And basically, I put together a compilation on the connections between the horror film The Ring, as well as the series Westworld. And after all this research that we've done over the past several years, it appears as though we've identified what the Ring is. What is the Ring? Well, I believe it's the portal to hell. Now, in the Ring film, the ring ends up becoming the well. It's a well with a top on it, and the light that comes through looks like a ring. It actually looks like a corona, to be honest with you. And so the decode tomorrow, we actually talk about the connections between the corona virus as well as the Ring film. There's connections there. You wouldn't think that it's possible, but there actually are. So I believe that this ring is the portal to the hollow earth. It's a portal to hell where the floodwaters came up out of the earth. Now, we saw a little bit of this in the Kong versus Godzilla film. And when you look at the inner eye, the eyeball earth model of our universe, the iris of the eye and the pupil become the ring, the pupil ring. So that's what we're going to look at tomorrow. And like I said, I'll be here with you guys in the chat, and we'll be having a discussion about what we're watching. And then later in the week, we have shows on blood clots and the immune reaction. And we talked about all of that last year. We talked about how nobody knows how an individual's immune system will react to something put in their bloodstream. We said that a year ago. We were like, you can't just go around screwing with people's immune system. And here we are. And according to their own numbers, most people do not report their adverse reactions. It's about 1%. 1 to 10% of people report adverse reactions. So what we're seeing in the media, just multiply that times 10 or 100 in terms of the people falling out and dropping out after getting the CV19 VC. And then on another show later in the week, we're also going to talk about the death rate and how it didn't budge from 2019 to 2020. So we're going to get into some statistics. And these statistics are from the UN. So this is the United Nations. Okay, so you can't make this up. The death rate didn't budge from 2019 to 2020. So what's really going on here? Did we magically cure all other forms of death and then all of those just transferred over magically to the CV19 Spamdemic? I don't think so. You'd have to be a dummy to believe that. But those are the numbers. We're going to go over those later in the week. Let's go back into the chat here. Thanks everybody for showing up. Remind me on the next show, once I hit this live button, to wait for you guys all to come in before I start running my mouth, because that's just weird. That's the second time it's happened. We hit the live button and it didn't stay live until I came back onto the screen. Maybe it's something with the browser. I don't know. Weird. Okay. I'm coming up for air. feel like I haven't stopped talking for the last hour. Yeah, they have no idea long term what's going to happen with someone's immune system. The scary thing is the people that came down with these blood clots, it didn't happen right away. It took like 2 weeks. And what's going to happen, a year from now or 5 years from now? What other autoimmune or immune reactions might they have? See what we're talking about here? And sure enough, there it is. Now, some people are saying, "Oh, well, Casey, that they're just trying to steer us toward Pfizer and Moderna." Well, Pfizer did the same thing, but different. Remember the doctor in Florida that dropped out from it? Internal bleeding. And there was also like 30 other people that reported like blood problems. This is mainstream news, YouTube. Well, that was from the Pfizer. So there is no good VC. They all have problems. They all have problems. So what can you do about it? Well, you can't sue them. Can't do that. Not allowed. Can't get any money for all of the money you spent on your health care. Can't go after anybody. So why are people standing in line to do this? Makes no sense to me. I think it's a matter of ego. So here's what's happened. Mainstream media has tarred and feathered anyone who speaks outside of the narrative. They've created a dichotomy. They've created a situation where mainstream people in life, the people, our loved ones, mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters, look down on people like us who constantly question the narrative. We are like the redheaded stepchild. And so when any message comes from our mouth, the first thing that people do is connect us to all of the negative media that they've heard about people like us. Does that make sense? And so what that does is it becomes an ego thing. Oh, you're going to tell me? Oh, I see what you're on about. Now you're saying we shouldn't take the VC. You people are crazy. And then their ego makes them go out and get it just to spite and prove you wrong. Does that make sense? This is what's happening. I finally figured it out. It took me a while. I'm like, why can't we convince anybody? Because they've already profiled us. They've already profiled people like you and I who question mainstream media and the narrative in government. And so the people that don't question government, it's almost like they do the opposite of what we tell them. You know what we should do? We should just pretend like we're all going to go get it. Oh, hey, yeah, we're all going to go get it. We should like do reverse psychology. Wow, you really need to go get the VC, right? You should really go get it. You have to get it because if you don't, the government's going to kill you, right? Maybe if we try that and then they'll go, oh man, those people are crazy. Maybe we shouldn't get this because they're all getting it. I mean, it's sad, but this is how you have to start thinking. Now, of course, I would never really do that, but this is really what's going on. It's people's egos. They can't imagine that anything we talk about is real because the mainstream media has crucified us. So look, that's not on you and it's not on me. That's on their ego. That's on their lack of humility. That might be the strong delusion. That might be the judgment coming through. Because it's not us that they're not listening to, you guys. It's the Most High, Jesus Christ. It's the Most High in Yeshua who they're not listening to. Not us. We're just messengers. We're just messengers. So, keep doing what you're doing. We can still keep trying, but understand why people aren't listening. And understand this has everything to do with ego and lack of humility. So don't take it personally. And you do right by yourself and your family and the people that you have control over in your life, your children. That's about all you can do. And keep spreading the message. All right. Linda says Ecclesiastes 4:9 through 12. Though, let me read that verse. That was a good verse. One may fall, two will get a good return for their labor. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. We're all in this together. Linda retracted her message. But yes, that is a good scripture. Thanks, Linda. Gentle reminder, says T. Kerr. I agree 100%. Okay. Someone says it's one, clearly, Labab says it's clearly one VC with just different names put on it. I don't know. I can't confirm that. I mean, it's probably the case. The fact of the matter is they're tinkering with immunity for something that has a less than 1% death rate. When you start tinkering with immunity for what appears to be not even a real credible or serious threat, there's something wrong with that. Now, if 5% or 10% of the people in the population, which is the way things used to be back in the times when they had real spamdemics, then you might weigh your options. But even then, I wouldn't trust these people. I'd rather just take my chances. I'd rather just build up my own immunity and do my own thing. I don't want to be injecting anything that these people make because I don't trust them. I don't trust them. They've burned humanity enough times. And you got these people talking about population reduction and all this stuff. I just don't trust them. Take my chances. Have faith in Jesus and his healing powers rather than these people that have lied to us many, many times before. So, yes, Kamal equals Lotus. Right on. Okay, you guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's premiere is going to be exciting. Many of you have asked me to look at Westworld. We had looked at Westworld several times, but many of you are new to the channel. So I pulled up some of my old videos and put them all back together for you guys. So it'll be a fun show tomorrow, as well as The Ring, which a lot of you wanted me to decode the film The Ring as well. So I love each and every one of you. Have a great day. If you haven't already, be saved. Time is short.